I'm sitting in this particular corner because 2 years ago during a blizzard, I was standing right here with a big question, the big ask I call it. You see, I was a nurse and I was caring for families but not making a difference in their health and happiness, and it wasn't enough. It was very frustrating and I felt unfulfilled. So in that quiet, I asked, what do I want? And the answer came like that. I want to be a life coach. And the shift occurred. I went from nursing to coaching. So I'm delighted to welcome you here to Lofty Questions. Please join me for the next half hour and we will figure out some stuff through coaching. So I believe that when we ask big questions, we can transform our lives. And I'd like to share a story about how that was true for me. In 1999, I had been a chronic alcoholic for almost 15 years, and I was raising my children in chaos. Between my unpredictable drinking and their dad's anger, it was a mess. And on Easter, I drank, as I always did. And we went to church, and we came home, and there was a fight, and the kids disappeared into their world, and I disappeared into the woods. I aimlessly walked through the woods and came upon a dumpster with a door up against it. I stopped, stared. I was so tired, and I knew my family was tired too. I laid the door down and I passed out on top of it. It was surreal. I felt so helpless. But not helpless enough not to go to AA. And I went back to my women's meeting and I shared my story. And a tiny elderly woman put her hand in mine and said, "Not to worry, Terry. You'll just always be known as our dumpster bunny." She had given me the seeds of love, safety, and belonging, which are the roots for change. I'm so grateful. But it wasn't until 2.5 years later, when my 16-year-old son, on Halloween morning, said, "Mom, I will not live like this another day. One of you has to go." Brian was advocating for his own well-being, and he was showing me that I could advocate for mine. And I left that day with the shirt on my back. I drank some more. I woke up on November 11th with the big ask, what do I want? And as I had kind of figured out in AA, you ask a higher power, and I did. I asked God, "You've got this, right? Because I don't." And the compulsion and the obsession to drink vanished that day. I've been sober since. It was the big ask, what do I want, that created the shift that led to my transformation. Ask a lofty question here in my loft about COVID-19 and who we are in this global crisis, but who we are in our towns, in our homes, in our personal life. It's pretty fascinating how lexicon labels define a particular group of people. We have the blackout babies of 1965 and the millennials and Generation Z. And now we are in COVID 2020. So I wonder, I'm curious about who are we in this experience of going inside, of shelter in place, of doing everything different, right? So there's some clever titles we could have for the different things that we are experiencing, especially as people. So we could start with the quarantines, all those teenagers in quarantine during their senior year of high school or graduation. And we have Corona kids who have to play with siblings and not friends. And we have COVID babies, the conceptions that occurred during this time and the births that joined on. as pregnancies come to fruition. And then, we also have COVID couples and corona divorces and potentially, reality actually, COVID death. So all of these lexicon expressions describe a community and how we are each individual in it. Yet we share something very powerful as this is affecting all of us. So the lofty question is, who am I in COVID? Who do I want to be in the new norm? And how do I get there? Like, what do I ask myself in order to become who I want to be going forward? So one of the great things about being trained as a coach is one of the tools we get to use is paradigms. Paradigm is a conceptual thought that's kind of got a twist in it. It makes us very curious. It gives us a new, fresh look at something that we may not have considered before. So I wanted to bring to light a paradigm that seems really appropriate in COVID-19, and it goes like this. When we press the pause button, we create choice, and choice creates change. Shelter in place was a significant pause in the world as we knew it, and everything was done differently. Everything. In the quiet of the pause, what choices do I have? Who are we as a couple? Who am I as a person? Who are we as a family? Do we really like that we're together this much and we want to keep that going? Do we like working from home and can we keep that going? Do we like really knowing how our children learn and how involved we are in their education? Do we want to keep that? Like going inside was a big pause. We're not on highways, we're not in stores, we're not with each other. There's a big pause. And that has created opportunity along with the challenge and choices. What does mom do? What does dad do? What do we do together? How do the children do schoolwork? How do we eat as a family? How do we get chores done? There were choices. We got to deliberately make choices about what our shelter-in-place world was going to look like, how we were going to operate. And from that, going forward into the new norm, we can now create change. There's much from prior to March 2020, as I've said before, that was beautiful, and we want to preserve and bring it forward. But this paradigm also creates that same invitation to look at what we're doing now and preserve that going forward. So the gift of a paradigm is a clever way to ask ourselves, how do I want to look at this? Is the pause button a good thing? Because we weren't hitting it before. It was a rat race. And now we had a pause that was almost required of us. And in that, there wasn't just one way to do something. We as a family decided how we were going to do a whole bunch of things. We've had to make so many choices in this pause that we are creating change almost organically. So by becoming aware of what those changes are, appreciating what really is special about that, well, then we get to keep it because we're deliberately deciding from these choices what we want. So the idea of the big ask and blending it with a paradigm just makes it a little bit more fun to consider, where do I want to go and how do I want to transform my life? And that's what what this is about, the big ask, lofty questions, is really to figure out what you want and then be able to get it.
I'm a cancer survivor. I had leukemia at 3.5, 11-year battle. Also a military home where dad wasn't there. Not a lot of love. So in and out of hospitals, gaining weight on prednisone after chemotherapy, being bullied. So I've had weight issues. I've had issues with men. I've had self-esteem issues that were leading me through this toxic lifestyle, and I didn't know what it was. And I think what I got from therapy is understanding that I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I had no idea. But I think the knowing that I wasn't insane, because I had all of these emotional, like crazy things coming at me all the time, with knowing what it was and then meeting you. And that's when I say you can actually put things together through coaching, is that I knew what it was. I knew I wasn't crazy, that I had an illness and it was brought on by trauma, through childhood. And I just didn't know how to handle it or deal with it, So
I would say that you had the weight of the world on your shoulders. It was like everyone's sadness became yours. Everyone's burdens, everyone's dysfunction. They just kind of all sat on your shoulders because you didn't know where else to put it. You didn't give it back to them that it was theirs to hold. What happens to us in our childhood affects the patterns and systems that we set in place as adolescent and teenager and adult, and the bravery of wanting to know, right? But you said this earlier. We weren't on film, but you said you taught me to stop asking why. Right?
you did.
Because how is more important than any why. How will I get through this? Not why did this happen to me? And because then we get to choose, right? And that's a very big ask. The results that you get from asking why are way different than the outcomes of asking how. One of the strategies that we use is it's called the 3 brains, and we know that we have 2 brains, left and right and all of that, but we actually have 3 brains that we coach through, and the first is the critter brain.
Critter brain.
The critter brain.
That darn critter brain.
Darn critter brain, yes, running around the base of the tree collecting nuts for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your critter brain message?
Everything was a core. It all came into the middle, like the big picture, and looking at that, and to get out of that critter brain, that can keep you miserable at times. He might be good, but he can keep you there. And I got out of him, and I looked at the big picture, and looked at who I was dealing with, and I was able to create the situation of honesty. Who would have thought?
What I heard you just say is you went up into the top of the tree and you looked at the entire field.
Big picture.
A big picture.
Yeah.
And that's the cortex brain. That's our evolutionized brain. And it's the brain of curiosity and of hope and of enlightenment. And what we learn to do is to appreciate the critter brain, because he loves us very much.
We thank him, but we put him away,
But
too.
we put him away, right? And that was the day that you saw that, you went from being at the base of the tree up into the nest, and that was the technique that resonated, that allowed you to say no more. When we appreciate which brain is talking and telling me the story that I'm following, then I can decide, do I want that to be my story? So again, awareness comes before change. So awareness would be, this is my story, but when you take it through coaching and you figure out, is it my critter brain or is it my enlightened brain that's telling me the story, then I can rewrite the story in appreciation, not like beating up the critter brain for trying to keep me in my familiar place, but to move on. Another one is it's called a mental rehearsal. Do you remember the mental rehearsal? Probably not, because you do it intuitively now.
Okay.
So a mental rehearsal was actually created by Olympian athletes. So you take a skier who's going to do a downhill race, right? And what these coaches did was they encouraged the athlete to physically, in their mind, go through the entire race and cross the finish line as a winner. So if you watch a racer at the top of that box in the Olympics, you'll see them physically making these motions. So we introduced a mental rehearsal technique, and it was about going to the two women that were bullying you at work. Remember that?
I do. Oh,
I
it's
know.
horrifying. Yeah, that was bad.
But do you remember that you didn't go in there blind? You went in there with winning the race. Can you describe in your own way, how that tool empowered you to go into that conversation knowing how it was going to finish?
It was interesting because I think that inner strength came out professionally for me, that I was able to take a step back and not take it personally and use it professionally to my advantage.
Exactly.
So I was able to manipulate my own situation to make me happy and make others work in the way I wanted it to.
And how did you use that mental rehearsal to get that done for yourself?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honesty is key.
Right.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
You can sit there and say, this, and this, but when you tell the person flat out, this is how I feel about you, this is what's going on, they don't know how to take it.
Right.
It's mind-blowing that they'll sit there like, deer in headlight, looking at you like, are you saying this to me?
Right. So what did you find in COVID that really resonated with you about either how you do things differently, or what became, the enlightenment of going inside? What do you want to bring forward, and do you feel that you need any support in figuring out how to keep it, preserve it?
Right. Well, I think we all actually probably have a lot of good things that came out of COVID, such as spending time with each other. I feel like we're always so busy.
Right.
It's like a go, go, go situation. And really getting that quality time cooking together, eating family dinners, that never happened. I thought I was going to be in financial trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I have $5,000 in my checking account from saving money.
Wow.
I saved so much money through this. We ate like kings and queens. I had steak twice a week. Just knowing our lifestyle is going to change going forward. It definitely taught us that we don't spend enough quality time together. We don't have date nights. We don't have, cook together. Like, we learned a lot about each other as far as, things we like, things we don't.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and just the amount of money we spend going out.
Right.
Yeah. So those are definitely things. There's always positives that you can take from everything. And as much as the whole COVID experience was a struggle, you can actually take all of that out. And I'm going into this non-COVID world, or this beginning of a new norm, with a lot more money, with a career. I'm not going to be paycheck to paycheck anymore.
Right, your salary now.
I'm salary. Yeah, like everything is coming into play. So that was definitely huge. Yeah,
it's wonderful. I love that part of it too. The community of who we are, and appreciating what each of us does in our life. Moms and dads understanding. Wow, this is what it's like to run a household every day, 7 days a week. I usually am gone for 5 of them. But Dad's home. Lots of new roles of appreciation in what we do and such. Yeah, that's
I mean, even calling mom and dad, call them every day. I don't call them enough.
great. Well,
You know,
you were here early before we started filming. My dad called, right?
So cute,
And
such a cute man.
such a cute guy. And he was like, "Yep, it's Sunday. Dad's gonna call me."
Yeah.
And yeah, there's these beautiful, beautiful, deepened relationships, deepened commitments to each other that the pause, the going inside created.
New appreciations for sure.
Yeah. But I'm very curious to get into the here and now about, what comes to mind about COVID that has been a real challenge that either, the coaching has helped you or, that you really had to go to it to make the shift and, how you might want to see how it goes forward.
Yeah. So I think we all have situations. Mine especially has been challenging. My boyfriend Eric and I decided he always stayed with me, but we decided to move downstairs, get a new, bigger, and better place, but also to have his father move in with us. His father's terminally ill and doesn't have much time with us, and just figured instead of, having him in his own place and, Eric there all the time, to have him with us. So within, I think it was mid-March when this started, I'll do the timeline for you. We decide to move. Eric loses his job. He's laid off completely because of COVID. They can't afford it. Eric and I pack up our old place. Eric and I have to move his dad and him out of their old place, which was like moving a family of 5 by ourselves because no one could help. Everyone's sick. So that stress right there, the timeline, getting his father in safe and sound, and then having to deal with, it's funny because I'm okay. I feel that I have grown and I can handle situations on my own. But when you're stuck with other people, and having the challenge of a father who doesn't want to come out of his room because he doesn't want to be a burden to us, or a boyfriend that doesn't have a job and he's very unhappy and likes to take things out on, his 2 roommates at the time. It's how adjusting to spending so much time together, the not working, the not having those everyday activities. For myself, I'm a socialite. I am extroverted to a T, and I'm stuck in an apartment with an ill man that we constantly have to look after, and a boyfriend that is on the depressed side. So to keep it together was very tough, but I think I'm a very positive person, and through our struggles, we actually looked at each other and said, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. Even as things are coming together, his father's moved out, Eric has got a new job, I've got a new job. So the struggle's real. It was difficult, and there's nowhere to escape. You're stuck with each other. You can't go outside at times. You can't be around people. You can't go have a drink if you need one. It's you come home and you're with these people. So it's kind of functioning together and getting through it together, crying together, talking it out together, the communication, everything. So it was tough, but I really feel that we've grown through the situation. And we have a big joke, we're like, we can get through anything now. We can get through that. So imagining having families out there with children or, all of that. I kind of felt the same, and the same pressure to be that sunshine for everyone. And it's difficult. It was extremely hard. When the critter brain gets in the way, you understand it.
Right.
Okay, I get it. I get why you're there. That's where you have to be at the moment. But then I'm able to explain why they're feeling the way they are.
Yeah. But I remember like running into you in the parking lot and knowing that this dynamic was going on in your home, and I'm like, "How are you?" And you were honest. You're like, "Well, Eric's taking some of this out on me," and I asked, "Do you need any help?" And you're like, "Nope." I talked with him. I told him what wasn't okay and what is okay, and understanding where you're coming from. I remember that conversation outside.
And the old Hillary was not comfortable with doing that.
Right.
I was not comfortable in making other people sad or letting them hear the truth. I wanted to make things better and fix everything all the time. And now you can't fix everything. But you can definitely help it. For sure.
It's a big thing. Your Eric's dad is now in hospice.
He's in hospice. Yeah.
And Eric is got a new job. You've got a new job.
Yeah.
There's probably some moments that were hard for you. Big asks. Here we're calling it lofty questions, but I'm wondering if you close your eyes and went back a couple of years ago to those things that were causing so much pain that you had to ask, what do you want?
My biggest want was to love myself and to stop blaming everything in the world on myself and understand that I make decisions because I want to make decisions. And I think going through that, especially last summer, I had a whole year of healing, I would say, right? I would talk to you, come back, and I did a me year.
Yeah, a me year.
Yeah, I only wanted me. I wanted to love me, do for me. And then one day, I had a Terry moment. She popped in my head, and I was hanging on to comfortable things, comfortable men, comfortable job, that were making me miserable.
Right.
And I said goodbye. My life did a 180, and I had to pinch myself. I still couldn't believe it, but I put it out there. I said it every day for 1 year. I deserve this. This is what I need, and this is what I've worked hard for. And it happened. I mean, it's the greatest feeling. So now, this past year with all these wonderful things, there's been a few slight changes, but instead of getting anxious and being sad, it's processing them, and I've been able to go through the motions, and it's just the best feeling. It really is. It truly is.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. This has been so fun. Lofty questions, the big ask. It's pretty cool stuff. And if you have a big ask, please write to me at loftyquestions@gmail.com. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.